Hello everybody and welcome back. Mr. Obviously Insane here with some more of the Vanilla Skylines challenge. Now, as I had mentioned, we were going to continue with doing some cargo train lines and some passenger train lines. So a bit of a time lapse here. You can skip ahead to 12:20 of the video if you want to continue where this sort of leaves off, but I'll kind of go over sort of what we're doing and why I did it. I'm adding the second cargo station here to just sort of finish off a little bit of the rework that I did in the industrial zone that included the highway. Sorry, I had some trouble recording that and stuff, so that's why you don't get to see it. But you will see it later in the episode, I do think. I don't go over it or anything like that, but I'm just laying out some lines and trying to figure out, essentially, off the main line here, where I want the industrial lines to go and what line I'm going to have is the passenger line, because for City Skylines they give you all the industry and tourists on the one line. I hope in a different version of Skylines they come out with more connections for the train line, because it makes the multi-platform just a lot more fun to use and a little less stressful in your city, I think. But I try a few attempts here to sort of get it kind of set up, but I'll eventually... I want to know where the train station's going to be, and I haven't set that up yet, so we'll probably move over and work a little bit on the roadway and get the train probably over here somewhere, but need to connect the tunnel into the area so that eventually anybody that wants to live in this area and work in the other side, because we don't exactly have a direct highway connection, I wanted to be able to have that connection. So we're going ahead and making the new sort of tunnel here, adding some nice curves, I think, so hopefully it allows for them to keep a decent speed through there. And eventually we'll have the whole area over here kind of worked so that it'll be like commercial space. I think we'll end up putting a university in here, and it just sort of turns into a bit of a commercial area to service the high density below for the stadium area, and we'll probably do a lot of low density on the other side there, heading towards what'll eventually become the national park type thing, or maybe we do it as a zoo. Maybe like a combination of both. I don't know. Give me your thoughts on that. Let me know. But as well as I'm putting in all the train lines, we will eventually do pedestrian pathways as well. I'm probably going to end up redoing this a little later, 'cause we'll see how that junction kind of works out. But for the time being, I just wanted to know where I was going to be taking the industrial lines, and I wanted to keep them separate from the in-city and the tourist lines, aside from after they come into the city. So once they kind of get here and split off, I wanted them to try not to mess with each other the best we could. But with putting that above ground station up there, I still wanted to have a connection to the metro that's down here at the stadium. So that's what I'm kind of doing here, trying to get a pathway that'll go from the stadium itself all the way up to the train station at the top of the hill, with more or less just having to cross one set of lights, as opposed to maybe not getting there at all from up there and having to drive or something like that. But connected the pathway right through the park. I thought that was kind of neat. Wasn't too happy with how that worked out, so we go a little bit further, I think. But eventually, we do get there. It's a lot of just trial and error. I don't exactly have... I have an idea of what I want in my head, and then I try to work for it. I think I've said that probably a bunch of times, but what I was really trying to go for here was not... I wanted to destroy as little of the stuff that I had already put in as possible, because that was a lot of time and effort that I still think makes the area look rather nice. So getting all these pathways in here allows people through the areas and in the different areas to all kind of get around without having to kind of drive in the neighborhood. So, and you can also take the tram past the stadium station as well. So we do have a few different types of public transit to kind of get around that area, but eventually I'm going to start working on the lines going into the industrial area. Right now I'm just kind of getting the ones that I think are going to come to. These will probably split off. One I think becomes passenger, and then another one splits. We do a few different lines trying to... I wanted to create a tiny little area here. It was like a rail corridor, because eventually the whole area around it's going to be mostly low density. There's not much more room left on the map down here. So I was just kind of trying to blend it into what sort of looked like a hill and make them look like they all kind of came out. And I was trying to give them enough space so that they're not bunching up on each other or disappearing. Despawning, that's the word I was looking for. Basically just trying to avoid having any despawn or anything like that by them being backed up. But again, with them all having to converge on one line, it's kind of tricky regardless. Probably like without mods and stuff, which we're not using any, still completely mod free and no assets or anything like that. So I'm happy with how the city is turning out. The landscaping has been a bit of a challenge, but it's coming along quite well, and I think for the time being there's still quite a bit more landscaping to do. But as you can see, the train lines went in pretty, I don't want to say simply, but they went in. It was a bit of a challenge to kind of bend them around, but the ones that we're doing here will eventually connect to the new cargo line, and we'll do that all through a tunnel, basically to just kind of create essentially a loop that would maybe go around the map if you're thinking of the city in like a circumference manner. So that's kind of what I was trying to do there, just have the train go the quickest route to the new station as opposed to having it funnel down through the new line. And then I connected the station that we built up there to the main line so that it can go out on the other side of the map. And I didn't want everything underground, so I'm doing a little bit of the above ground rail. Now I left, I have a couple attempts here. What's going to say, trial and error. I'm trying to sort of blend it into the landscaping so that it looks like it was kind of meant to be there. That's why I left a lot of the space open, as I've mentioned I think a few times when some people ask. I left that whole space open with the thought of having the highway go through there, the road that we're using as like secondary highway, which just sort of acts as more or less a service road for all my commercial zone traffic and things like that, and people that might want to use that to get around the city without driving through the city. As you can see, there's a bit better look at the rework of the industrial zone. More or less just redid the entrance and exits for the highway, took away a little bit of the general industry and converted it over to office space to sort of just balance that out. But keeping with the above ground, brought the bridge back to here, and then it was a little tricky trying to get it underneath, but a little patience, trying from both sides, just trying to get the I was trying to get the height and curve to go around the hill, because I didn't want to do too much more landscaping, because I liked how the tunnel had already ran into the ground. So eventually could maybe smooth up the landscaping there, but my main focus here was just the connections and making sure that it didn't like bunch up or anything like that. So that's a little bit quick of the highway. I do apologize, but we are moving on. Getting close to the live stream pickup from where I kind of leave off here. I basically just lay the roads. We will sort of get... They won't look exactly how I do them here. I was slightly distracted and created a very, very silly road that will just eventually give us headaches. But I remedy it, and it eventually adds to the area. I'm putting in the Expo Center to kind of draw in that touristy type people, especially if we just put those train lines in and went through the process of making direct lines. Now you will notice that one of the lines isn't connected. It will eventually be. It's like a bypass type line. But I was sort of thinking about a tunnel here, but I do decide against it. And we ended up just going with a different type of road system. And eventually, sort of like some avenues off of those main roads. Just keeping an eye on the noise pollution, because this will be sort of a commercial area, so I do want to have a lot of low density, like I said, around here, at least on the other side of the road there towards where the tracks come into the city, but paths everywhere the best that I could. I haven't set up any like pathway tours or anything like that yet. I've been focused on everything else and that kind of stuff, but the city itself is shaping up well. The traffic is looking good, and eventually, yeah, you'll get to see everything get kind of filled in here. So I hope you guys enjoy that. I do apologize that I have taken a little while to get this up, but just had a lot of family stuff and things of that nature. So gonna hop back into the live stream footage here. Do appreciate anyone that has watched the time lapse. Took a little while to do, but yeah, look forward to making more of these. Hope you guys are enjoying. Gonna hop back into the live stream as I have said, and yeah, enjoy. Commercial. So one, all this is residential. So I'm actually gonna need to put something like that. I feel like I need one more road. Let's see, why is it not? There they are.
I swear to God, if you want it, then you got to get it. Cause when I'm on my deathbed, no, I will not regret it.
Go this way.
One life, one shot, don't let it slip away. Today, get up and
I think
make
that'll be okay.
change, huh? You decide your own future, a winner or a loser, a headline or a rumor, on the bench or a shooter, superstar or recruiter, defensive prosecutor, just living a consumer, or will you be a producer? If you have a dream, go capture it, go activate, get off your ass and take some action, bitch. Start acting like you want this shit, cause passion ain't compassionate. Too many people want this shit, it's not enough you're talented, you have to fucking grab it. I'm sick of being adequate.
Like you, and we'll do a pathway through here. Oh, did you actually attach yourself to that? Okay. It's a little frustrating. There we go. Also, what is the unemployment rate? Can I unlock that building? $32. Hey, you're not allowed to go anywhere. Oop. I did not want to do that. That's fine. Come on, green. Should just be balancing out the services.
I have a dream, that's all I need. I'll make it happen with some work and belief. Know what I want, so I'll take it on.
Yes.
I'll make mistakes, but mistakes make you strong.
So we just added a whole bunch of those things, so it's got it all got to get spent and accounted for. So. Where's my population? Actually, let's pause this for a second. Do I actually want to make that a specialty district? So all of that stuff is going to change. But before I fill it all up, at least... Alright, go... That. That should be fine. Let's do the pathway. Go away with your road guidelines. Of course you would.
Yeah, I roll up.
There we go.
I roll up in the club like I'm real sly. Suit and tie on, looking like I'm real fly. See a cutie in the back, looking real nice. Thinking that she's real shy, baby, that's my real type.
Little buffer you. I don't want to be losing people.
Welcome to the city, where the girls are pretty.
I don't think that's death either. It could be some.
She's feeling frisky, yeah. She said, welcome to the city, where the girls are pretty.
19,000 jobs available. What's the old education? Interesting. So elementary, high school. 29 out of 200. So I guess maybe I put down one university? Perhaps. Alright, so you're more or less... a little more general industry. Fill that up too much. Let's see, is that a cemetery? No, that's a... Yeah, probably not the best place for a cemetery. Speaking of cemetery, are you empty yet? No, you still have 84 bodies to go. Oh boy. Okay, I needed... I think I was gonna do a little bit here.
Let me break it down. Yeah, I'm gonna make it now. Give me some time and you'll see me up on stage somehow. I'm working every day. I'm working hella late. I'm working cause it's worth it. Once you make it, then you play. Y'all never
I
slow
don't even know how you're doing weird things.
Live by the saying that your time is lost, but
So
never
we'll fill that.
Let's go another round. Make them give up the crown. Nah, I ain't playing, man. I'll take it, so just give it now. Yeah, I'm gonna work hard, play hard. Yeah, I play my first card, ace hard. Yeah, they know I play smart, play hard. We don't have the same star, we don't have the same cards. Yeah, it's not the hand that you dealt. Nah, it's how you prove it to yourself. Nah, you don't need any wealth. Gotta live your life, work hard and excel. Yeah, don't be looking for their help. Look inside of yourself for the wealth. Keep your mind and your body in good health. And keep working for nobody but yourself.
Two, right?
You can make it one day. Don't be listening what anybody say. They got their own state of mind, okay? Most of the time it won't help anything.
Can't run right in? Crap.
Got no time to have doubts. I'm gonna make it somehow. I'm gonna keep my head down.
I think that'll be okay. Some more you.
I'm gonna keep my head down.
Is that a pathway? Because paths are always good stuff. No road guidelines, please.
I'm gonna fight till I make it, yeah. Yeah, I'll be okay. Oh, I'll be okay. I'm gonna fight, never giving up. Yeah, I'll be okay. Oh, I'll be okay. Cause I know just what I'm capable of.
Close enough, I guess.
You can leave if that's not enough. I believe in never giving up. I don't need someone to help me up.
Seriously? How many more times do I have to go away? Just keeps coming back. That's kind of funny.